All right, Unit 5, question
Not
3.
yet, but go ahead, Mr. Rose. That's not on
What fundamental American values are embodied in the Fourth Amendment? Why have the Fourth Amendment
Issues been a persistent concern from colonial times until today. How and why does modern technology raise new concerns about the Fourth Amendment? When you're ready, you can start.
The Fourth Amendment's requirement that the government may not search or seize one's persons or property that is absent of probable cause is rooted in the fundamental American values of preserving privacy and the preservation of our natural rights. An individual's expectation of privacy is and has always remained at the heart of the Fourth Amendment's protection against unreasonable searches and seizures. As Justice Louis Brandeis stated in Olmstead v. United States,
The makers of our Constitution undertook to secure conditions favorable to the pursuit of happiness. They recognized the significance of man's spiritual nature, of his feelings, and of his intellect. They knew that only a part of the pain, pleasure, and satisfactions of life are to be found in material things. They sought to protect Americans in their beliefs, their thoughts, their emotions, and their sensations. They conferred, as against the government, the right to be let alone, the most comprehensive of rights, and the right most valued by civilized men.
The Fourth Amendment embodies the fundamental idea that individuals retain a basic right of privacy in their possessions and communications, into which no government actor can arbitrarily intrude. The government is restricted from excessive intervention through the oath of affirmation in defining what will be searched and seized. In a time leading up to the colony split from England, unjustified searches expanded through general warrants to the point where natural rights were violated.
The idea of probable cause became apparent through Lord Camden's 1756 dicta in Enfield v. Carrington. The great end for which men entered into society was to secure their property. That right is preserved sacred and incommunicable in all instances where it has not been taken away or abridged by some public law for the good of the whole. The case established a precedent that had a significant impact on the ideology of the Fourth Amendment.
Even to this day, citizens still fear unreasonable searches and seizures as demonstrated through the 2000 case of Indianapolis v. Edmond. As people drove through roadblocks, federal authorities used drug dog searches to prevent drug trafficking. Since the police did not have specific probable cause, they were infringing upon every citizen's right to privacy and the security of their property, much like the English when they issued general warrants.
when Edward Snowden announced that the NSA was unreasonably viewing phone calls, he attempted to protect individuals' privacy from government intrusion. The issue stems from the fact that protecting privacy from intrusion of the government is a deeply rooted value in American society.
The expectations of privacy can be seen in Katz v. United States, where the issues of the technological implications of privacy have vastly changed. Law enforcement used taps on public phones, which brings forth the question of whether or not a reasonable expectation of privacy can be derived from the Constitution.
These privacy concerns can also be seen in the recent NSA scandal of whether modern technological advancements hold relevance to the original contents of the Fourth Amendment. With new technology developments such as email, individuals' expectations have adapted.
It is therefore left up to the Fourth Amendment, as interpreted by the Ninth, on what privacy means. This expectation is derived from the Fourth Amendment. However, there is no definite term for privacy in the Constitution, so the Ninth Amendment is utilized.
As lamented in Griswold v. Connecticut, specific guarantees in the Bill of Rights have penumbras, formed by emanations from those guarantees that help give them life and substance. Various guarantees create zones of privacy. The Fourth Amendment, along with the Ninth Amendment, reflects the fundamental American values and creates a reasonable expectation of privacy.
How do GPS and drones add to the continuing debate of concerns of the Fourth Amendment?
I think with GPS specifically, you can track where someone is based on the location of the GPS system. So if they're doing something that they don't want others to know, they're invading on their privacy because it was meant to be private in the first place.
However, going off of what Kelsey was saying, it brings into the question of whether the common good versus personal privacy. In a 2011 case, a young girl was trapped and kidnapped inside of someone's truck, and they tracked the GPS signal in 21 minutes after she was kidnapped, and it saved her life. So we have to evaluate what's more important, is privacy or the common good of the people as a whole.
branching off of what Kelsey said, the difficulties that the GPS and the drones bring is that constant surveillance that is able to be viewed on people. There is outside, unless you are sheltered in your house, all doors closed, no windows drawn, everything. There is no sense of privacy because you are constantly being monitored, and we have to bring that into question when monitoring the things that monitor people.
When you guys are looking at the internet and you're talking about this assumption that people have of privacy, does the fact that you're using the space of private entity in terms of things like terms of use agreements and so on that you all blankly agree to without actually reading, does that play into the idea that the Fourth Amendment does handle these things, right? I mean, let me give you an example. Maybe paint the picture a little bit. If I'm Facebook, if you were to read the terms of use agreement in Facebook, they can basically take any image that you post to Facebook and utilize it for their own marketing purposes. Okay, now your argument would be, well, that's mine, you can't have it, that's my privacy, but their argument is you agreed to the terms of use to use their sheltered space, right? So how does that play into the idea of kind of modern technology in the 14th Amendment? What part of that belongs to the public or the private sector to regulate, and what part of that is the government's job to ensure privacy?
When you enter a public forum such as Facebook or MySpace or Tumblr, you are kind of giving up your rights because you are posting your pictures, all your information on there. And while it's selected to your friends, people can still view that. So in a sense, you are giving up your privacy. You are allowing them to do that. By clicking agree, you allow for people to open that up to them to see all your private information.
Let's look at it from another point of view. Someone posts something on Instagram or YouTube that is detrimental to you, but you haven't posted it, someone else has, and in many instances, you don't know who it is. How, using this type of technology, can privacy be protected? And does the government have a role in protecting privacy
I think
in this
that
instance?
what that stems from is the importance of the Ninth Amendment, because although we have the Fourth Amendment, which says these protections, it's not actually stated in the Fourth Amendment that these protections on the internet sites that you were talking about will be protected. So the Ninth Amendment that's the importance of it, because it puts it on the Supreme Court in order to decide if the government should stop that from happening or
How?
not.
What does the Ninth Amendment say?
It states that it's basically it's like talking about the Supreme.
Wait, hang on, stop. You're using this argument and you don't know what it states?
Well, I do know. I know what it states. Like the Ninth Amendment just says like any issues in the future.
John, you can't whip that out there in competition. Okay.
Like any issues that arise that aren't like specifically stated.
I don't think it says like at all.
That aren't specifically stated in the amendments can be interpreted by the Supreme Courts.
It does?
Yeah.
Better check on that. Anybody else?
Let's look at it from the point of view of cyberbullying. How is privacy impacted by cyberbullying? Can't talk this afternoon.
There was a recent suicide in Florida where a girl was bullied so much that she actually committed suicide, and the girl put on her Facebook, "I know I helped kill that girl, but
Give it a fine.
thank you," to finish that off. And I think in that case, I think there should be certain restrictions with that, because helping a girl commit suicide is violating your natural rights, such as life, liberty, and property. And the whole reason for the Constitution is to protect your natural rights.
Does this thing give the government the right to perhaps arrest and prosecute?
I wouldn't necessarily give the government the opportunity, the power to arrest the person accused of the crime, because it's the victim's decision to go online to those sites and visit those sites, even if there's
But
that.
what about the bullying aspect of it?
Well,
The Fourth Amendment directly states probable cause, probable cause. So if the girl has posted what she did post on Facebook, that is probable cause to arrest her, and I do believe she did get arrested.
I think in the case of cyberbullying and protection of people's rights is that there is a government aspect that needs to be involved, because it's not, just because it's supposed to be a private site doesn't mean people should be allowed to bully people, literally.
Okay, we're talking about Facebook, but what's the difference between me posting something on Facebook, some sort of criminal activity, some picture, maybe I am, doing it for somebody else, versus me having a conversation on my cell phone, which is a private conversation. I haven't clicked any user agreements, I am having a private conversation
You
between,
technically did. When you got your agreement, when you agreed to be on AT&T.
okay, I am on a landline,
You technically
my
For
rotary
different
phone
purpose.
in my house.
But you technically
For
agreed,
You're
argument's
on a
sake.
payphone.
because that's still private. It's still private.
I am on the radio.
However, and the piece that he's getting at, let me help, because I know where he's going. So can I just can I
Yes,
walk them down? Somebody regulates the internet. Am I right? Just like they regulate the cellular network and whatever. Who is that?
Who regulates, I was gonna say.
Yeah, who is it?
regulates
Do you know?
the internet?
Who regulates
The
it?
F.
government.
yes, what, the government,
It's the government. But
Starts
The
with an
NSA.
F,
Oh.
the NSA, the National Security,
The
they monitor
Yeah.
FCC.
the FCC.
which, just so you know, technically the internet can also be regulated by Congress. They can step in and take advantage of it because of the Commerce Clause. So if you didn't know that, because the internet is a vehicle for interstate commerce. Just so you know.
So my question could be, what's the difference between me publicly posting something on Facebook and me having a private conversation? Where does now the line drawn between the Fourth Amendment and this private conversation? You look
Well-
really eager over there, sir.
Well, in Facebook, you can believe that you have a sense of privacy. However, that's not necessarily reasonable because anyone can see your Facebook. However, if you're on a cell phone, you have the expectation of privacy, and it can be supported. But that's where the terms of objective and subjective terms of privacy come into play. Where you believe you have a sense of privacy, but you actually, based on other people's concerns, have a sense of privacy.
Which is what the whole argument of Katz v. United States was, is that he had a subjective and objective view of privacy when he went into the booth and shut the door. He believed that no one else would hear him, and that his conversation was subjective and objectively private.
You mentioned Snowden and the fact that he released all of this information.
Peyton Reynolds, please come to the principal's office. Peyton Reynolds, thank you.
We didn't have those when I went to school. Where do we draw the line between the right of privacy and the actions of someone that could possibly have negative ramifications to the security of our country?
Should we be spying on Angela Merkel
That's sweet, by the way.
and the French president and the Brazilian prime
Yeah,
minister
well,
and the
because
Mexican
people,
president?
because people are spying on Obama's cell phone at the end of the day.
Or
He's got a
for that
BlackBerry,
matter,
don't
could they be spying on me? On what I may post on Facebook, which I don't do very often.
I think the line has to the line has to be drawn at where there's actually a reasonable suspicion and that justifies a search and seizure, because these, as our testimony was talking about the general warrants that we saw in England, we want to make sure that doesn't happen. So this reasonable search and seizure, it has to be directly defined, and it has to be pretty specific in how we define it. We've already kind of set the baseline for that, I think. So
How?
through the use of the Fourth Amendment and
I'm asking you how, Tom, because you're giving me very general. I want specific. You're saying it's there.
That's what he's saying.
How?
He's also rambling.
How is
So-
it your-
I want specifics. You say there is lines. What do these lines look like? What has the court said to create these lines?
How do lines change after 9/11?
Implementation.
Patriot Act.
Okay, so this is something for you guys, and we're gonna get into the. If you haven't stopped it, go ahead and stop it.